it does. So, hey everyone, welcome to our second webisode. This episode is going to be more about delivering insights and not confusions. In the last episode, I spoke a lot about splitting your process, your dashboard design process into usability and aesthetics. And we actually spoke about how we can use quick fixes and how we can use a proper usability phase in creating good looking dashboards, but in the literal meaning, good looking dashboards. So this time we're going to delve a little bit deeper and we're going to talk about what you are presenting in these dashboards and how you can deliver value with these dashboards. So again, it has to start with the usability phase, and our usability phase at Amtex, like we have a very established process, and the usability phase begins with three fundamental questions. The first fundamental question that we ask, or you need to ask if you're a dashboard designer, is that who is the audience? So even before you start creating your wireframe, even before you start picking your visualization, the first thing that you need to tell yourself is that I am not the audience. All right, there is a very thin line between being the dashboard designer and being the dashboard consumer. So what I'm going to help you with answering these questions is try and identify broad categories of audience types and and match them to the kind of dashboards that they would be wanting to look at. Dashboards are of varying types. There are strategic dashboards, descriptive dashboards, analytical, operational, and the kind of value that each one of them provides is different. So what I'm going to try to do by answering who is the audience is try to give you a broad categorization of this audience so that you know what is the kind of dashboard that you can serve, that serves their best purpose. Now, the first audience is a very common audience that we cater to with dashboards. That is the C-level audience. For these guys, strategic dashboards serve best. They are very focused on KPIs, and what matters to them is goal progression. So they have set business goals in mind, and what your dashboard needs to tell them is how well we are progressing towards the goal. You have to highlight deltas. I'll tell you why this is important. If your consumers are looking at the dashboard on a periodic basis, let's say daily or weekly, and if they start looking at the same kind of patterns, because human cognition is such that we identify patterns and we're not really going into the details. So if the patterns start to look very similar, your audience will quickly get disengaged from your dashboard. So it's really important to answer that one question really quick in the first 3 seconds. What has changed? And that's what matters to the C-level audience. What changed? How are we progressing? Another really important thing that you can, I would say it is like the Zen level of picking visualizations or creating visualizations, is when you can not just deliver insights in your visualizations, but you can couple that with the recommendations. I'll show you an example in one of the slides that I have lined up. You can check that out. Also, C-level audience like predictive, qualities of dashboards. If your visualizations can predict stuff for them, nothing like it. So the next kind of audience is fellow analysts, and just like the name, suggests, analytical dashboards would serve best purpose for your fellow analysts, because what matters to them is discovery, interactivity, and flexibility. You should give them a playground where they can interact with the dashboard that you've presented, and they discover hidden insights, missed opportunities. They uncover analysis for you. They uncover insights for you. That is what your fellow analysts are looking at. Now, others is an audience which is a very broad category type, but when you have user interview questions and stuff, you'll be able to further drill down into what are the components of others. But for time's sake, I'm going to just call them others. And for these kind of audience, are people who are not very well versed with dashboards in general. So for these people, in dashboards that are intuitive is very, very critical. So they made operational dashboards that are informative in nature, that depict performance or that are descriptive in nature. These have to be very intuitive, and they have to like answer their top 3 questions instantly. That's how you would cater to a dashboard for the generic kind of users. Now, public. Analysis is not just on analytical applications that we see, or corporate dashboards that we see. Analysis is presented everywhere: news, blogs, wall displays. You are consuming analysis or visualizations in general. I mean, in particular, there are different kinds of visualizations being fed to you on an everyday basis, and you consume it without even knowing. So for these kind of visualizations, you need to take the storytelling approach. You can get creative as long as you have the best practices aligned, and it needs to be compelling in nature. So you need to talk about their pain point, and you need to bring that to notice, and you need to tell a story about it. The next question is the user interviews. What do your users intend to achieve with that dashboard that you're going to present them with? So that, I'm going to just read through these questions because they're very self-explanatory, but these are a couple of questions that you can ask your users and understand what they want to achieve out of their dashboard. So what are the top goals in your role, and how using analytics will help you achieve them? How often do you review your metrics? This will give you an idea of how much do you need to highlight, or whether deltas make sense to them. What triggers will you be looking into your data for? That means if they are looking at a periodic basis, what really matters to them needs to be right in front of them. And what data would prompt you to take an immediate action? You need to talk insights and recommendations in that direction. If you see this number increase or drop, what will you do next? So if they have to take action, then taking action should not be a drill down kind of a thing. I mean, taking action should be very intuitive for them. So there is a decision making, and taking action happens right there. So how would you use data to understand the problem? What mistakes or missed opportunities could be prevented if you have data? Now, this is a very imperative question to ask, because this tells you what is the kind of data that they want to drill down, or what is the kind of data that they need to actually be looking at. What kind of metrics can you present that will answer these questions for them? What information do you need on a daily basis? Let's talk about operational dashboards or descriptive dashboards. These are things that people need on a daily basis to keep up with their work. The third really important question is, how do I best present the insights? So you need to always remember the motive of creating these dashboards. They need to be easy to digest, they need to be informative, they need to be compelling in nature, and they need to be unbiased. Very importantly, you have an ethical responsibility as a dashboard designer to present unbiased insights. Now, how you would do that is by achieving clarity, accuracy, creativity, and context. Context is super important. Unless and until you're talking about what the person wants to hear about, nobody's going to listen you out. Simple as that. Why are visual analytics so important? Why is visualization so important when you're presenting a dashboard? Half of you will actually look at the slide and not even remember this. That's because everything here is text. If I would have presented these statistics in a more visual manner, you would have absorbed it better, because 60% people are visual learners. 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is visual. And that's how human cognition is wired. For us to understand numbers even beyond 5 in first 3 seconds, it needs to be visual. There needs to be an abstraction. And that's why picking the right visualization is really, really critical. Now I'm going to move on with these 3 fundamental questions down. I'm going to move on, and I'm going to talk about how to avoid mistakes, some common mistakes that we make, some tips and tricks, some do's and don'ts that we can incorporate. The third question that I was talking about, Tim will be elaborating it in his section. So I'm just going to keep it short. I kept it short back there. So let's break it down. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about 5 major mistakes and 5 pro tips. So the 5 major mistakes are correlation and causation issues. Basic charts, we'll discuss what are the do's and don'ts and what mistakes people make. We'll talk about some 3D charts and why we should do away with them. We'll talk about cognition and clutter and some biased insights. So the first thing, correlation does not imply causation. Just because people, if people started buying more newspaper, Night Shyamalan's movies are not going to start performing better at the box office, right? And Facebook did not drive the Greek debt crisis. So correlation, what is correlation? It's like 2 variables. You want to know how they are linearly related, right? Second slide. So what most people do, what most people make mistake is that they drive this correlation to such an extent that they think that the change of one variable implies or causes the change of the other variable. Now, there was one really popular incident that happened, or for the wrong reasons popular. There was an article published on New York Times which correlated the sales of ice creams to homicides. Now, as like I said before, it's your ethical responsibility to present data or present insights that make sense, right? I mean, you can't just go put that out on New York Times and make everybody feel like this summer when you go out and you buy ice cream, it's going to be your last cone, right? So this is a really imperative thing to remember. Correlation does not imply causation. Now we're going to go into some basic charts. For instance, bar charts. Bar charts are the axis needs to start at 0 because they are implying something quantitative in nature. For lines, however, it's optional. You can very well zoom in into the trend, and and that's sometimes advisable. If you see the two charts that are presented right on global temperatures, the first one was done by Powerline, and the second one is the rehash. So because of the kind of intercepts that they've done, they fail to communicate the insight. Whereas by increasing the intercepts, or by increasing the intervals on the x-axis, they were able to, like zooming in, they were able to actually determine that there is a changing trend. So line graphs mostly are for trends. So over time, so if you look at the left side chart, the one that you see with the blue bars and there's the dual axis chart. Now here they have also used a line chart, but what they have done is they have plotted it against categorical data. Now that's why it's kind of confusing, because human cognition, again, we're looking at a trend and we don't see one. Right. Remember something with scales, do not change it midstream. This is a generic advice, but people tend to do it very often just to prove a point. So it would be best, it would be in the best interests of the consumer that you do not change scales midstream. Now, look at the chart which talks about the top 10 most in demand developer skills of 2013. Now, the goods of this chart is that there is nice labeling going on, but the bad is like everything else. The language is on the x-axis, which kind of means that one language is more language than the other language, okay? And that doesn't make sense. And if you look at the x-axis, the plots that they've made, the intervals are very ununiform, and it doesn't really make any sense. What they could have done is probably went with a bar chart. And because it's categorical analysis of a single language and the demand percentage of it. Another thing about graphs, what people tend to do is that they kind of overwhelm their charts with especially dual axis charts. They think anything and everything, all the data can like go in, but it's advisable not to overwhelm your charts, because it's not just your charts that are getting overwhelmed, but it's also your consumer. So dual axis charts can be used mostly for related variables. Somehow they are relating, but in their magnitude and in the numerical units, they kind of differ. So keep these best practices in mind. One thing that people kind of miss out on a pie chart is that it always adds to 100. Although it seems very, very, it's a very simple thing. It's a very simple thing, because it's like a circle, and everything in that needs to add up to 100. It's really simple, but most developers tend to miss out on it. They tend to overlook this one simple concept. So don't take it for granted. Remember that it always adds up to 100. Keep it clean and consistent. Don't make too many categories in it, because then it'll be a mess, and you're not going to really derive any insights out of it. Lesser segments, and if all of the segments are almost the same size, then you'd rather switch to a bar chart. Now coming to map visualizations. We love map visualizations, don't we? It's just so much fun to just throw in a map visualization and make it look really awesome. But a few things to remember is that if you see the Faithland termed map, the gradation that they have given for the range for somewhere in at half is the same color gradation that they've used for the range that's like almost okay. So I'm going to rush through. Please color with a purpose, and don't use gradations like this, which will kind of confuse your user. 3D kind of hinders the perception of the users, and it skews the insights. If you see, this is all the same level, but this one in 3D kind of looks bigger. So you're going to skew the perception of your consumer. Cognition and clutter. Remember the layout that we discussed. You need to know that you need to place your visualizations according to their importance. So remember this, that human cognition depends on this layout, and do not clutter. I'm going to use the same example I used earlier. Now, I saved the best one for the last, and the major mistakes is biased insights. If you would actually look at this, then you would actually think that gun deaths declined. But look at the left axis; it's actually the reverse. So it's something that was on Reuters. I mean, you need to remember that you need to present data effectively and present it for what it is. Do not skew it to prove or disprove a theory. Now we're coming to 5 pro tips. Without going into this, I'm just going to move on and talk about the tips. So the first thing is how to think modern. The spine of design is balance, organize, and eye friction. You need to balance all the components. You need to ensure that it's very intuitive. When the user is reading the insights are related to each other, and the flow of your eye, or the flow of the consumer's eye, it doesn't need too much friction, and it's very natural in consumption of information. You can try infographics, for instance, where a single line could do. Please don't use an entire chart, because all they need to do is read that single line, which has probably one statistic or one delta that they need to look at. Keep it inclusive. You have users who are colorblind. You have users who have to squint a lot, probably. So make sure that you're taking care of all of those small best practices. Keep it mobile ready, because I mean, it goes without saying, in today's world, mobile is where everybody's looking at. Keep it intuitive. If you would actually go through this comic strip, Cell Phones Cause Cancer. It's a very famous comic strip. I had a lot of fun when I was even watching this. So you have to keep it very intuitive, because the way the user interprets your information, if you would have conducted your user interviews effectively, you would know that you would be able to understand your audience, and you'll be able to deliver insights that the audience can understand. And that's how you keep your data and your insights intuitive in nature. Now, data versus insights. I remember I told you in one of my previous slides that deliver insights with recommendations. So if you see these 3 dashboards, they're all giving you the same kind of data. But the left one is showing just data, and the right 2 are actually showing insights. And the best part is that the last one is actually giving some recommendations, that you consume the data that you are giving, and you say it like your audience wants to hear it. So that is insights coupled with recommendations. Like I said, that would be really achieving the zen of your visualization, if you can actually do this. Now, couple of visualization basic do's and don'ts. You got to keep it simple. Be mindful of the colors that you use, and you have to make sure that your visualization is understandable. Go ahead and make some user tests. Go ahead and talk to some people to come check out your visualization and see how they interact with your visualization. Don't search for users who will be able to understand it, but rather go for the actual audience that this is intended for. Some don'ts are, don't intentionally misrepresent data, like we saw in the gun deaths chart, and don't try to present too much information, because simply put, human cognition does not allow that much of interpretation. Don't put bad data into a visualization just to try to make it look better. We will tackle more of this in our next webinar, where we will be talking about how to clear your data up. And don't assume that all visualization methods are created equal. Like, for instance, a pie and a bar. Don't just keep using it like, you cannot switch between this. You need to understand which data can be presented using what visualization. And that's what Tim will be delving further. Now, ethical visualizations, again, this is also a concept of proving or disproving and presenting biased insights. But remember that your journey is about taking data to information, information to knowledge, to insight, presenting wisdom out of it, but not reaching the level of a conspiracy theory. So like the saying goes, do not torture your data, because then it will confess. Always try to discover or uncover. Do not be on a quest to prove or disprove. To close my presentation, When it comes to analysis, context matters, and your context is defined by what your users want to see. So stick to context, and all the best with your visualizations.